Does anybody have any questions or comments for
Oh.
Jean? I know I do for Joanne to, if she knows anything, or direct to find out. Dick?
Councilman Haley.
Have you investigated, or are you aware of the parking requirements? Let me back up.
Yes.
If a person wanted to build an office building, we have certain requirements in the city that says that based upon the type of businesses, you have to have certain numbers of parking.
Right.
And if you wanted to have a retail store, a Dairy Queen, for instance, you have to have certain numbers of parking. And it's also regarding houses of worship. And I'm going to ask that we get a report about the parking requirements for houses of worship later on. Joanne, is that your neighborhood? Okay, good. Are you?
I have the regulations on how they figure it. I thank you so much for bringing that up, because I do think that pew space in a church and prayer space might be different, and they might need different formulas to calculate. We can't go back. I don't have my time machine, so we can't fix that from the past. But it's a wonderful question. I thank you, and I do think that we should look at how pew space and membership correlates with prayer space in the mosque, because they might be a slightly different formula.
Okay, now let me finish my sentence. My thought process.
Sorry.
My thought process. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I thought you were my husband there for a second.
The reason I ask you this, is that I attend St. Matthew's Church. It's a Catholic church here in Corona, and we have a bucket of parking spaces, all except for Christmas and Easter. And at that particular time, golly, there's people parking all over, all over, because we have overflow. But all churches, and excuse me, I don't know where with our houses of worship, be it temple, mosque, church, whatever, we all do have them. But you are aware about the requirements for them. Okay, good enough. Good. Then now that you are, and we get that squared away, thank you, because we're going to open that up and talk about that in a little bit. I'm done.
Mr. Martinez?
I do want to clarify one thing, Jean, is that we do occasionally say we made a mistake, and we do and have in the past gone back and re-examined our parking regulations, because I know Karen is especially the one who is the parking police around here. But
that's what I hear.
Thank you.
But the center that we did at California and Ontario, I can't recall whether I was on the planning commission or the city council at the time, but I know...
You were not on the city council, because I wasn't.
Yeah, I know specifically that one, we went back and fell on our sword and said, this doesn't make sense. I mean, there's no way to get in and out of there. The parking is atrocious. And we did go back and relook at the parking, and we're still having issues up there with that center as some of the tenants become successful or not, So we do say on occasion, oops, we made a mistake. And we do learn from some of the mistakes, and you're right, maybe the prayer space is different than pew space. I don't know. And that would be something we might have to learn from other cities that have gone through this even more so than maybe we have. But we have erred and we have learned from errors in the past, just so we're clear.
I appreciate that. It's always good to know that I'm not the only one in the room who makes mistakes. I mean, I make 3 after I get up in the morning and have my coffee. And the California and Ontario, what happens is that it becomes so obvious, and such it becomes a point where people just start to boil over. And that's not that the entire city has boiled over, but a number of people in the community, and certainly on Citizens for Corona, have boiled over. They're frustrated. They don't know what can be done. What they're really asking, with some of the kindest questions, some of the harshest questions, is help. Figure this out. Please. people who have the authority to do that, because I'm confident the mosque will work with everybody.
Mr. Haley?
If I could, thank you. The four of us here and the five of us in December are the city leaders. and as such, we have to be fair. That is, we have to be even-handed with the law that is in effect as it is today. For instance, if the speed limit on Main Street is 40 miles an hour and all of a sudden we find out that maybe that's too fast, we can always change it. But nonetheless, is what we have to do, and this is where we kind of have handcuffs sometimes, in the fact that we have to make decisions as the law is written today. Now, if, like Mr. Martinez had alluded to, that if there's something needs to be changed, we'll take a look at it, because we're intelligent people. But as leaders, we just can't come up here and make rules. One rules for the Catholics, one rules for the Jew, one rules for the Muslims. We can't do that. And quite frankly, I, as an individual, don't want to do that. I want to be completely even-handed. Well, no, don't do that.
Don't do please. That. No applause, please.
No one wants to do that,
right,
Councilman Haley.
Okay, give me one more second, and thanks to you, plus. What I want to do is I want to make these decisions based upon facts and laws, okay, as they are today. For instance, we'll go into that later. I'm using too much time for right now. Thank you.
I thank you. That your comment goes directly to what I said about that there was, some people might presume that because the process didn't seem to work as well, because we went from this much parking to no additional parking, with obviously an agreement to park at Santana on the, for overflow. When we did that, and there was a parking study that had been done 2 months before, to some people that might look like not an even application of what's happening. So I appreciate that you're going to look into make sure that we apply this properly. No one wants the mosque to move. They can't. They're done. I see the minaret, the big one, is almost done, which is stunning, by the way. But there has to be help somewhere so that the citizens and the residents locally, and so that the members and the mosque, who we respect, have a say in how to fix this, so that everybody walks away. Maybe they don't get everything they want, but they can say, I was part of the process and I did get treated fairly. Thank you for that.
Mr. Scott?
Good evening.
Good evening. Wait, should I get all my documents and everything, and my quotes and everything?
No, I just want, for my own sake, my colleagues' sake, and members of the audience here, to make sure I have clarity on the questions that were asked.
Okay.
And as I understand it, there are 5 areas, and so if I've missed one or I have it wrong, please clarify for me. So one of those is, does the city check on agreements that have been made when a project comes to the closure? Do they go back in and verify that what was agreed to for that building, for the parking and so forth, is done?
Yes.
Secondly, does anyone revisit, in this case, parking codes from time to time to see if they're standing by what was agreed to originally?
Besides Karen.
Besides Karen. Another one was a question regarding the Planning Commission meeting that took place in 2009. And why didn't they look at the discrepancy between the 2 traffic studies, one being in 2001 and the second in 2009? The next area was in regards to fire inspection verifications, and was that done? Is that done? And then finally, membership In this particular case, is there a maximum? And what is that maximum?
Projected, yes.
Yeah, if there is one. Did I get them all?
You got them all. You get an A.
All right.
You know, that's why you're in the teaching profession. You can do this stuff.
Thank you. I think that really helps all
Thank
of
you.
us understand what the specifics are.
It's what I'm asking. You know, other people at another meeting may bring something else up, but that's what I'm asking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple things real quick, and I think Joanne, in a moment, will be clarifying some of your inaccurate information.
Okay.
It did not go from 3,100 square feet to 43,000. That's very inaccurate.
The 2001 agreement was 3,125 feet.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
And that will be clarified when I have Joanne.
Okay.
I don't believe any of our parking for any religious institutions done by attendance.
I don't know.
I'm telling you. And Joanne will clarify that.
Okay.
The study you're talking, or the agreement you're talking about, December, was December of '09. That was a parking agreement, and correct me if I'm wrong, 'cause I'm with you, but I make mistakes every day. Mark, I think you were in on this one, would maybe be knowledgeable. That parking agreement 2009, December, was on the use of reciprocal parking, and actually the agreement was more for the city's sake than it was at the time, for the mosque's sake, was making sure that during the events that we need the reciprocal parking, that it was the parking lot was open on those specific events, and the agreement had the dates listed and would be updated each year with the dates, as well as the Fridays, and since Ramadan moved, we would change the date of Ramadan for the year. So the parking agreement you're referring to in December of 2009 was solely for making sure there was an understanding on the reciprocation of the parking. That did not tie to the CUP.
No,
The
no, it
CUP
didn't.
came
I
the following
understand that.
year. So I just wanted to make that clear
Well,
to people around.
Let me make sure I'm understanding. The traffic study done by the traffic engineer was, I believe, in October of 2009. December of 2009, the conditional use permit was submitted, and you're correct, it wasn't until January of 2010, that's the 2010 agreement people refer to, that went through. So, am I correct there?
No.
No,
The
okay, well,
reciprocal agreement you're referring to on the parking was separate, was done before the CUP, had nothing to do the tie with the
Okay.
CUP.
So there's
It was brought in later.
separate document that shows that?
Yes.
Well, I'd love to, okay, I'd like to see that, because I don't think I've seen that, and I may have
Am
missed
I,
it.
Mark?
Happy to do it.
We will get, I mean, this is things
No
we got to
problem.
follow up on, because I could be wrong, and so Mark's going to check
No,
on
no,
that
no,
for me.
no, that's okay.
That's correct. The mutual license agreement we had with the Islamic Society was in June of 2009.
Oh, June, not December.
Lord.
Way before the traffic study.
Okay.
I knew that, I was trying to
It was
tie in your
before.
dates.
Okay.
So that was done in June of 2009, that was the parking agreement. That whole agreement was done before the traffic study, before any of the issues, and that agreement that you're talking about was not
Okay.
initially for parking or going as a overflow area. That parking was solely for making sure that the parking lot was open for 4th of July, for the opening day of the sports leagues, for all the different things that we needed overflow parking for the city.
Okay.
Okay.
So that parking agreement was only for the city
At the time.
at the time?
No, it was mutual, because I did
Okay.
say it was agreeing to the Friday's overflow as,
Okay.
as well as Ramadan. That's
And
the
the city events.
reciprocation.
Okay.
So we
Well,
did
if-
have that.
Then my question would be, and I'm sorry, who is the gentleman?
Mr. Wills, Mark Wills.
Oh, hi. So we made this reciprocal parking agreement in June of 2009. The traffic study was October, and the CUP was December, which was then approved in January. Am I in the right line here? Why did we go ahead and make that at the time in June? Was that a public hearing? Was that a, get back to me.
We'll get back to that.
We're going to get in the weeds
We
here.
can answer that. We can answer that right now.
Okay.
We approached the Islamic Society in order to have the city be able to participate in utilizing their parking during the 4th of July.
Okay.
It had nothing really to do with the mosque or the Muslim society using the city's parking at the park.
Okay.
Now, that became part of the agreement because that was something that they wanted to do. But having said that, the parking at the park is public parking, and it's not used on a Friday. They have the ability to use that parking whenever they want to. It was just included in that agreement.
Okay.
But it needs to be understood it was the city that initiated that agreement. It wasn't because of the parking issue or anything else.
More information is good.
And
Okay.
I think that's a real important factor that Mr. Robbins just said was it's city property. Public property, just like we just approved tonight, that's why I was clarifying with trespassing on public property and the consequences. Public property is open to anybody who wants to park, and if they happen to park every Friday on public property, I'll give you a list of churches that utilize public property for parking on overflow churches.
I have no doubt, Karen, that that's correct. Because, listen, there's other places you can ask about. You can ask about why Ontario hasn't been widened and the utilities moved. That's one of the reasons I asked that question.
Well, you asked a question about other agreements. We have numerous agreements, some that are very successful in the parking and some that aren't.